This episode of One Hit Thunder is brought to you by DistroKid.
When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like Aloe or Allbirds, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and great marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling, and for shoppers, buying, simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Nobody does online business better than Shopify. It's home of Shop Pay, the #1 checkout in the world. You can use it to boost conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going through to checkout. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/income, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/income to upgrade your selling today. That's shopify.com/income.
One hit is all you need to make the money guaranteed, and you can live off royalties forever. And it makes me wonder, is it just a wonder, or is it one hit thunder?
All right, so on Max, they just dropped Yacht Rock, a documentary spelled DOCKumentary. And we had to bring in our resident Yacht Rock lover, Jim Logrando, to talk about this documentary. Jim, first impressions of this, you being a lover, you as a guy who, when we've toured together, I'll hear you in the shower, it is always Yacht Rock playing in there. So what are your first impressions of this doc?
I would say that it was pretty accurate in terms of what I know. I mean, it was definitely put together with the guys that I consider the godfathers of the genre, the guys that, you know, coined the phrase Yacht Rock are in it. Hollywood Steve and JD Riznar, the guys that did the Yacht Rock web series for the Channel 101 thing. And I mean, since they're in it and they approve of it, I know there was a lot of material. I think it felt pretty consistent with what I sort of think is the case after, you know, you hear the songs, you know the songs, but then as the film kind of lays out, there's a lot of story behind it. And there's a lot of people that are in the same, you know, pool and the group, and the guys in toto kind of basically being the backbone of just about everything in the genre. Beyond them talking about the Steely Dan part, I'm sure we're going to get into all of it.
Well, what I wanted to throw out there that, and maybe I'm just like completely in the dark of this, I did not realize that the phrase Yacht Rock literally stemmed from that video series.
Me too. I didn't know that.
Like, I thought that it was already a genre that was established and they were just like playing off that. I did not know that that is where that term originated from. Because I remember people say, I love that it starts with Questlove talking about getting a link in his MySpace, because that means that Questlove and I saw that video the exact same way.
Yeah, I was really surprised by that too. I thought the term Yacht Rock was coined way before that. So a lot of credit goes out to those guys who created that web series. They created a web series before web series were even really totally a thing, because it was pre-YouTube. Yeah. So that's pretty cool. And yeah, I learned a lot. I didn't know that it all stemmed from Steely Dan. I didn't really know that they were kind of the godfathers of it. And we find out, funny enough, towards the end, at least, was it Donald Fagen at the end on the phone call?
Oh my God, so funny.
That was the funniest part, is he apparently does not like that term, which is so funny because, I don't know, Michael McDonald, who I think of as being the Yacht Rock guy, Michael McDonald and Christopher Cross and Kenny Loggins, all those guys, they seem, first of all, completely cool with it, probably because it's helping them out in one way or another, and two, those guys seem like literally the nicest guys in the world.
They really do. Everyone comes off looking so sweet in this documentary.
Yeah.
And you know what? Like, Chris, I'm sure you can understand this too, of like, sure, there's a chance that your band maybe gets this label that you're not in love with,
Yeah.
But there's a lot of perks that can sometimes come with an association to that label.
Sure.
In the sense of, like, even for Punchline, I wouldn't say that anything Punchline has made in the last 20 years really falls into the pop punk category that you guys still find yourselves in. But when it comes time for a music festival that's focusing on, like, pop punk nostalgia, that helps out quite a bit to still have that label associated with you.
That's what I'm getting at, is like Michael McDonald, Kenny Loggins, Christopher Cross. If Yacht Rock is a thing that their entire radio stations dedicated to, and Sirius stations and stuff, and they're getting more royalties, why shouldn't they be happy about it? If it's a thing? And people in general, whether it's funny, they addressed this on the documentary, whether you're being, even if you come into it from an ironic place or to be funny, you end up liking the music, you know? And
it's
maybe
kind of undeniable. It's an undeniable genre of music.
Yeah. Jim, how did you come to be such a yacht rock lover?
Well, honestly, so all of these songs are songs that we definitely heard growing up. And it wasn't any sort of thing like, oh, my dad constantly had these things on or something. Honestly, it was this web series that sort of like put it into it. And I'll give you as a thing. So the web series came out in 2005. I have a very online friend. I'm sure we have all one. My buddy Nick is the guy that finds all the cool memes and all the cool stuff like before it blows up everywhere else. So he tipped me off to this, and I watched it, and it was obviously super hilarious. I assume both of you guys have watched it. I remember one time we attempted to watch it at Chris's house, but it was super late at night, so we didn't get through all of it. And sometimes, depending, I don't know, there's one episode in the Pantheon that just sort of definitely turns people off into watching it because it doesn't like fit into the whole story, so it's kind of hard. But anyways, it was like reconnecting through that funny show of being like, oh yeah, these songs are really cool. And then it was like a couple of years later, I remember vividly, it was like Labor Day weekend. They had a Yacht Rock weekend on Sirius XM, which now there's the whole Yacht Rock station. But it used to be a thing that Sirius just did they did it one time as a special preview. And then the guys that did the web series were kind of like the DJs on it. And I happened to catch it and hear it. And I'm like, oh man, I do love all these, songs. How could you forget all this stuff? But the thing that's actually kind of wild, I think, about Sirius is that station that now exists and you can listen to it all year round. It was like a special weekend, then it was a summer of Yacht Rock, and then now it's just on. I don't know if like in the car there's like a specific dedicated station to it, but definitely if you use like a Sirius app, they have a 24/7 Yacht Rock station. But that station plays a lot of stuff that I think is not actually yacht rock. If we're going to get it down into the definition of it or the confines of it, I think yacht rock is specifically a certain type of sound and a certain bunch of groups. And there's a lot of things on that station that I don't think fall into it. And they kind of touch a little bit on it in the
I was going to say
film.
I think Questlove or someone mentions that where they're like, I'll be DJing a yacht rock night. And no matter what I play, I'll either have a bunch of people tell me that I wasn't playing accurate yacht rock bands, or they'll have a million songs that I should have played but didn't. Like, that people are very passionate of what falls into that category.
I really think that The Ringer, who produced this thing, executive produced by Bill Simmons. I love Bill Simmons. Very... Very well done doc. He's, been responsible for a lot of really
I was going to say, these
docs.
Music Box documentaries, there was the Woodstock 99 Music Box one. There's a really good one about the writing of Jagged Little Pill. They do. If you're just a music fan, you should watch the Music Box stuff on HBO Max.
Yeah, I like the people that they had on there. Questlove was great. Obviously, you can get him on any music documentary and he's going to be great. I love that Thundercat was on it. Obviously, he should be. He has a song with Michael McDonald and Kenny Loggins. Could you imagine doing a song with both of those guys? That is so crazy. Bethany from Best Coast. They have that dude that's been playing guitar for Paramore. Like, I thought it was like a pretty cool crew of people that got to talk about this style of music. And I had to laugh about, I think it was Questlove who brought up that this music's kind of the original emo music. And they showed that playlist. I was laughing really hard about the fact that every song, like 80% of the songs in that playlist had the word fool in the title. It was so funny. And I love that What a Fool Believes created an entire thing of songs that sounded like What a Fool Believes.
See, I think that that's all part of the elements of what is specifically yacht rock. So like it has that, they referred to that in the film as such, and it's kind of in a lot of it is that there's like a doobie bounce, which is like
doobie bounce,
and that's, you can kind of hear that motif in a lot of different things, but that in and of itself doesn't make it there, you know. And it's not like there's like 4 rules that each of these things sort of fall into it. There's just tendencies to what it is. There's usually, you know, a fool, like what the fool believes, but there's some fool or somebody getting fooled as kind of part of the lyrical element of those things. I think a lot of it really also has to do with the way the drums sound, you know, like Steve Porcaro from eventually Toto, but in those guys were all those studio musicians playing on all those different elements, or all those different records, I'm sorry. But his like shuffle beat style, and if I was gonna, the first song I think of that has that is just like an epitome is like the Boz Scaggs stuff, which is like the song Low Down, or even the Lido Shuffle has that kind of like drums, you can kind of hear them in that, and that's Steve playing those drums and putting that in there, and that sort of I think leads to it, because you know, they said in the film too, and it falls into it, like Earth, Wind and Fire sort of has a yachtish sound, and I think that they might even play some of those songs on there. But that's really kind of soul music. There's like yacht soul, I guess, if you were to break it down, as yacht Jesus, yacht energy.
It definitely felt like they were kind of saying that, like because to me, there's definitely an element of appropriation, I think, in yacht rock, and I think it is this element of like a bunch of white dudes who really liked Earth, Wind, and Fire trying to do their own like funky version of that. And you get those like cool bass lines, and you get like a little bit of a groove that like maybe wasn't in the other rock music that was coming out in that time, but it's also like chilled out. Like it's totally. I mean,
it's not funk, but it's funky.
It's funky. Yeah. I mean, let's talk about the best story that we hear in this entire documentary, which is the writing of Ride Like the Wind by Christopher Cross. That was written while he was on acid driving cross country.
I wrote down the Christopher Cross rules. Every story he had was so awesome, but he's like the most unassuming, like, smart, like how awesome.
He is so mellow and so like just unassuming. I kind of felt bad for him. He was winning every award, and people were like mad at him for winning. Barbara Streisand was mad at him for winning every. Was that who was mad at him?
Yeah, it was. Although, hold on, I think I have this on my phone to show you. I looked this up to see that year because they said that she was mad, and I was like, what was even happening when that was going on? And these were, so I guess it was like up for best new artist. I'll find it and come back to it. But it's like there was 5 things that were nominated along with Christopher Cross and, you know, Barbra Streisand and 3 other songs that were 100% going to win before her song, regardless of what it was. If this song wasn't on there. So like, I can't even tell you the song it is. Maybe you might know it. I definitely don't know it unless someone played it.
I recently talked about this song on a podcast, maybe on a after party with Krista Makes or something, and I didn't know. I don't really know any Barbra Streisand songs, so
I do have it here. All right, so the other songs were Sailing won that year. This is the year is 1981. The other nominees besides Woman in Love, which is the Barbra Streisand song, are Theme from New York, New York, performed by Frank Sinatra, which I guess starts spreading the news, right? So everybody knows that song. Lionel Richie's Lady. Well, Lionel Richie wrote Lady, and it was performed by Kenny Rogers. So it's Kenny Rogers' Lady as written by Lionel Richie. Bette Midler's The Rose, and Fame, I'm Gonna Live Forever, the theme song from Fame.
Christopher Cross definitely should have won. He was deserving to win. That's definitely the best song. And hey, Jim, I don't want to forget this. Yeah. I just want to bring it up, not to call you out, but it was Jeff Porcaro who was the drummer. And I want to bring that up because he is the late Jeff Porcaro. He died at only 38 years old. Did you know he was only 38 when he died?
Yeah, I saw it was like the early 90s too. Yeah, there's Jeff and Steve, I guess, is the keyboard player. And then their brother was a bass player. Mike, he also passed away. A lot of Porcaros in the mix, for sure.
It's amazing how that group of guys, Lukather and Porcaro and David Page, like played on everything. And I also thought it was so interesting that Thriller, I never knew that Thriller was apparently the album that kind of killed Yacht Rock, but it's so funny because everyone playing on it is from the Yacht Rock world, so they kind of killed their own world with that.
That's funny. That's kind of the element of one of those episodes of the Yacht Rock web series where they're like, Michael Jackson's going to kill smooth music, and then they had to get him. That's when they got him Human Nature, and so then he just kept it the same. It's funny. I got a funny story in regards to this. So my buddy Greg, who I used to work with at the record label stuff, he got to go on a trip once. He told me, to LA, and he went to Steve Porcaro's house and met with him. That's the keyboard guy who has Grammys for Thriller that were just displayed in his bathroom.
Nice.
Amazing.
Which I think is like, if you win an award, I think that's where you have to store the awards, because I've seen with my own eyes and heard many stories of people that's have the prestigious awards in the bathroom.
I want to, just real quick, this has almost nothing to do with Yacht Rock, but because you broke it up, it's one of these things that breaks my brain sometimes about time, is that you mentioned Frank Sinatra theme of New York, New York being nominated for Record of the Year in 1981.
Song of the Year.
Song of the Year. Do you guys realize, like, because to me, that's a song that I just assume is like an old song from the 40s along with all the other Frank Sinatra songs. That was a song that was written in 1977 for a Martin Scorsese musical called New York, New York. Like that is like a song that existed in the time of our parents' life. Like it's not like an old standard. It's so weird to think about it like that, because that feels like a song that has existed for like 100 years. Easily.
You're absolutely right. I thought it was just an old song from God knows when.
Nope, was an original. It's called Theme of New York, New York, because it's literally the theme song to a Martin Scorsese film called New York, New York. Liza Minnelli sang it, and then 2 years later, Frank Sinatra covered it and had like the much more famous version of it. I think it was like his last single, was like his last huge single was the Theme of New York, New York.
You know what's so funny about the term yacht rock, though, that I was thinking about is it totally, when you hear the songs, I don't even question it. Like, it makes sense. The song that makes the most sense to me is they played it because they were using examples of like black artists that were also considered yacht rock. And they played George Benson, Turn Your Love Around. And when I heard that, I'm like, this sounds like you're on, well, I guess I picture more of a cruise ship, but I picture that song playing over the PA on a cruise ship as you're walking. You get up in the morning, you're walking down to like a breakfast buffet.
Yeah.
Turn your
it makes sense.
around. I
can't remember if this even comes up, and I don't even know if this even counts as a yacht rock song, but like in the scheme of songs that definitely feel like they're inspired by yacht rock, I always think of like Escape the Pina Coladas song. You know what I mean? Like it just feels like it has that same kind of bouncy bass, kind of like a little funky to it, but like same vibe. I hear that song and I imagine like cruise ship, you're walking out to the pool and that's just like playing over the speakers.
I mean, they definitely wear that track out on the Yacht Rock radio station. And Rupert Holmes has other songs that are just as goofball as the Pina Colada song that also get to play on there. You know, that song, Him.
That one feels a little more novelty. Like if I were like the real deal people that are considered yacht rock musicians, I'd be like, oh, that song, that would be like their Offspring, Get a Job or Pretty Fly for a White Guy to us punk guys, like, oh, that song.
But I like that they talk about like kind of like dunking on these guys wasn't like a brand new thing in 2005. Like they talked about like Rick Moranis apologizing to Michael McDonald. I've seen that sketch. I'm not sure if either of you have ever seen this very weird sketch with Rick Moranis where he's playing Michael McDonald rushing to the studio for his backup vocals on that song and like gets the studio just in time, runs into the booth, puts the headphones on and does the such a long way to go. And then he just walks back and like hangs out with the guys in the booth for a little bit until it's time to go and sing again.
I have to assume that's like, for guys that weren't, were either just barely alive or certainly not cognizant of what was happening at the time that Michael McDonald was there. It's got to be like how Phil Collins was on everything under the sun in 1986 and like all that stuff. Where it's like that was just his time to be on that stuff. And it's all part of these things we're talking about. Like he was singing background on the Steely Dan records and he was doing the Doobie stuff and he was working with Kenny Loggins eventually, and all these guys are like in the same mix in ways that you don't even think about.
I think it's because when you think of scenes, right, you think of like the New York hip hop scene, or you think of like the DC hardcore punk scene, or like the California ska scene. It feels weird to think that Yacht Rock was also this scene of like a bunch of dudes who kind of came up together and were recording in the same places. But like that, why wouldn't it have been? Why wouldn't other music genres also have like a main fixture of people who all kind of knew each other from running in the same circles for so long? And I think that that's kind of what is interesting about what the web series and now the documentary proposes, is like any genre of music has that element where there is a group of dudes who all just happen to be in the same general vicinity coming up with ideas, the same way that like grunge was formed in Seattle, Yacht Rock was formed.
Totally. And it's like that. It's like the whole like Laurel Canyon thing. There was those people, those musicians that literally lived in Laurel Canyon together and made a bunch of music together, like Jackson Browne and the Eagles and Linda Ronstadt and all those sorts of folks in that zone. But then like it gets mischaracterized with, and then, you know, putting it to Yacht Rock, it gets mischaracterized a lot, I think, with all soft rock. Now, you know, they sort of talk about that in the film too a little bit, where it's like not everything is yacht or feels like it's got those boat sorts of vibes. Just because it's soft, it's like, you know, New Kid in Town, the Eagles is on the Yacht Rock station, but it isn't. It's, you know, it's country or it's folk rock.
Yeah,
it's really what that is there.
Hey there, One Hit Thunder listeners. Are you ready to take your music to the next level? Well, get ready to rock, because this episode is brought to you by DistroKid, the ultimate digital music distribution service for artists like you. With DistroKid, you can easily upload your songs or albums to online stores and streaming platforms like Spotify, Apple Music, and YouTube Music, reaching fans all around the globe. But that's just the beginning. DistroKid offers a ton of awesome features like Hyperfollow, which helps you promote your releases and get pre-saves on your songs, all for free. But wait, there's more. The DistroKid app is now available on iOS and Android. With the app, you can manage your releases, track your streaming stats, and even withdraw your earnings, all from the palm of your hand. And for those looking to perfect their sound, check out Mixia. This powerful tool allows you to put the finishing touches on your tracks in minutes, ensuring they sound polished and professional every time. But that's not all. DistroKid has just launched a brand new feature called Instant Share, allowing you to easily share large files securely with collaborators, producers, and more. With Instant Share, you can keep your music streaming at the highest quality while making the best impression possible. So what are you waiting for? Elevate your music career today with DistroKid and unlock a world of possibilities. Possibilities that I know all about because I've been using DistroKid for years. It's seriously great. If you haven't used it before, you're going to love it. And One Hit Thunder listeners get an exclusive offer, 30% off your first year with DistroKid by signing up at distrokid.com/VIP/OneHitThunder. That's distrokid.com/VIP/OneHitThunder.
With Amex Platinum, you can really be in the now. Access to Resi Priority Notify. Yes. 4 p.m. checkout with fine hotels and resorts booked through Amex Travel.
We needed this.
And dedicated card member entrances at select events.
Let's go!
Means you can focus on the present moment. That's the powerful backing of American Express. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/withAmex. Card member entrance access not limited to Amex Platinum Card.
We have one more act for you this evening. I don't even need to say his name. Mr. Bob Dylan.
From the director of Walk the Line and Ford vs. Ferrari.
If anyone is going to hold your attention on a stage, you have to kind of be a freak.
And starring Timothée Chalamet as Bob Dylan.
Are you a freak?
Hope so.
Once upon a time, you're just so fine.
Inspired by the true story.
I want to know which side he's on.
This Christmas.
They just want me singing Blowing in the Wind for the rest of my life.
Bobby, what do you want to be?
Whatever it is they don't want me to be.
He defied everyone.
Turn it down!
Play loud!
To change everything.
He's our Elvis.
With no direction.
Timothée Chalamet, Edward Norton, Elle Fanning, Monica Barbaro.
Make some noise, BD. Track some mud on the carpet.
A complete unknown. Only in theaters Christmas Day. Rated R. Under 17, not admitted without parent.
Okay, I have to tell you, I was just looking on eBay where I go for all kinds of things I love, and there it was.
That hologram trading card. One of the rarest, the last one I needed for my set. Shiny like the
designer handbag of my dreams. One of a kind. eBay had it, and now everyone's asking, ooh, where'd you get your...
Windshield wipers. eBay has all the parts that fit my car. No more annoying, just beautiful.
Whatever you love, find it on eBay. eBay. Things people love.
Gift the remarkable with Marc Jacobs fragrances this holiday season. From the iconic Daisy and Perfect to the all-new Daisy Wild, Marc Jacobs perfume gift sets include everything she needs to feel special. From her favorite fragrance, plus the matching travel spray, holiday gifts don't get much more perfect than this. So if you're looking for a gift inspiration these holidays, gift the remarkable with Marc Jacobs.
This is the sound of your ride home with Dad after he caught you vaping. Awkward, isn't it? Most vapes contain seriously addictive levels of nicotine and disappointment. Know the real cost of vapes. Brought to you by the FDA.
Time to move? Skip the hassles of selling during the holiday season and sell your home directly to Opendoor. Request an all-cash offer in minutes, close, and get paid in days. You can even pick your close date so you can move after New Year's. Start your move at opendoor.com or download the Opendoor app. Opendoor is represented by Opendoor Brokerage Inc., license 02061130 in California, and Opendoor Brokerage LLC in its other markets. Terms and conditions apply.
This episode is brought to you by Amazon. The holidays are here, and you know what that means. It's time to get your friends and family the gifts they deserve. Take the stress out of shopping with Amazon's great deals and low prices on a huge range of items from toys to tech and much more. Whoever you're gifting for, Amazon has great prices on everything you need this holiday season. Shop Amazon for all your gifting needs.
This episode is brought to you by Allstate. Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Like you know to check the date of the big game first before you accidentally buy tickets on your 20th wedding anniversary and have to spend the next 20 years of your marriage making up for it. Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate. Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Northbrook, Illinois.
Screwball peanut butter whiskey? Why the hell not? A little salty, a little sweet, a little savory, and always smooth. Screwball, the original peanut butter whiskey that's unexpectedly delicious. Visit screwballwhiskey.com to learn more. That's Screwball with a K. Enjoy responsibly. Copyright 2023 Screwball Spirits, LLC, New York, New York.
Put down that smartphone and listen to me. I'm Matthew Milligan, professional musician and lifelong Weird Al fan. Each week, I'm joined by professional podcaster and close personal friend Matt Kelly to take a dive off the deep end into the vast career of pop culture icon Weird Al Yankovic on our show, Weird Algorithm. Along with some very special guests from the worlds of music and comedy, we tackle every song, every television appearance, and every bit of sketch comedy Al has produced in chronological order, covering the good old days of My Bologna and Eat It, the fun zone of tacky and white and nerdy, and everything in between. As we go, we're ranking the songs, albums, and music videos in the hopes of creating the ultimate guide to a career bigger than the biggest ball of twine in Minnesota. So the next time you're having one of those days, stuck in a traffic jam, wondering why does this always happen to me, just kick off your sneakers and stick around for a while because we've got it all on Weird Algorithm, available wherever you get your podcasts. And now you know. Was that enough references?
One of my favorite parts that made me feel relief or good or something was, I get why this style of music would just, people would be like, enough. Everything is so slick and perfect. And they addressed that. Like that one, the guitar solo in Peg, they brought in 7 guitarists to play it. They kept firing people because no one could do it right. They finally landed on a guy who did it. I get why people will be burnt out. We need a new sound. Punk rock comes along, and that's, one of the things that people got into in new wave that were different than this yacht rock scene. But I also like that they said that the fact that they were such perfectionists and so much went into these perfect sounding recordings that it almost came all the way around and was punk again because they were doing exactly what they wanted to do. It made me think, just from a personal perspective, when I think about like new Punchline songs, or we're getting mixes and recordings back, and I'm like, is this too much? Did we go overboard? Are there too many things going on? Are there too many vocals and ideas in here or whatever? Is this turning into that scene from Dewey Cox where he just has like a million musicians playing? But it made me feel good about like, no, do what you want. That's what's truly punk. If you want to go overboard, and, well, maybe overboard isn't the right word, but if you have a vision for your song, just go for it. You're doing your own thing. You don't have to try to fit into some scene. You're just trying to make the best song possible. And that in itself is kind of punk. I thought that was cool.
And I also think that the element of when we get to the end of this story, right, we talk about like Michael Jackson Thriller and that kind of being this like all of these yacht rock musicians and mostly Toto, but like all of them kind of doing this album, and they, you know, act like this is basically the album that destroyed their genre, but that it's 90s rap that kind of brings it back with like De La Soul and Warren G like pulling these records and being like, God damn, the bass groove on this song, or like this part, like, because it was so funny. Every time I've heard Peg, I've been like, man, I love this song, but I genuinely can't think of why I know this song. And then when they mention, I'm like, of course, it's the De La Soul song is sampling this. That's why I've known this song all this time. Like,
I got to say, too, I really felt, I don't know if kinship is the word or whatever, but watching these conversations with Kenny Loggins, Michael McDonald, Christopher Cross, these guys, unless they just put on a show for the documentary, but even David Paich, we had David Paich on Chris Makes a Podcast. These guys who accomplished so much, played on thousands of people's songs and albums, they seem so humble and nice. Like when Michael McDonald was telling that story about, or Kenny Loggins, I guess, was telling the story about going to Michael McDonald's house and he was in there already playing like the keyboard riff for What a Fool Believes. And Michael McDonald's like telling his sister, like, hey, I think I'm going to play this for Kenny. And she's like, no, don't play that one. It just, the story is so like cute and nice. Like it doesn't feel like there's any ego. It just feels like guys who are awesome songwriters and musicians just coming together and making something they think is cool. And I love that because I think that's been like me and my friends' approach to music is like to not have an ego about it. You see a lot of guys, and women and people in the world of music who feel like they have to put on this big show. And they did address that as being part of the downfall, was because then MTV comes along and you have to be more than just the sound. You also have to be the face of it. And then you have guys like Donald Fagen who aren't necessarily going to be the face of anything, right? Yeah. That could be a bad thing, but I don't know. I think Michael McDonald and Kenny Loggins still looked pretty cool.
Well,
dude, all of that was, oh, sorry, man. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I also get the vibe that this web show comes out and like part of the web show is almost like this idea of like, wouldn't it be so funny if all these dudes were like best friends that were hanging out all the time and getting into like normal best friend stuff? And then you watch the documentary and you're like, yeah, but that apparently was exactly what it was. Yeah. Like they were just like a bunch of friends who hung out and like really like again, to compare it to like your own music scenes or even like with us, like having other podcasters that we're a fan of their shit and like reaching out to them and being like, dude, I loved your episode. Like that was the vibe of them. Like it felt like all of them were cheerleaders for each other's music instead of like this real like hard like, fuck Kenny Loggins, we got to write an album 10 times bigger than Kenny Loggins. Like I love that idea that they all just really enjoyed each other's company and liked doing music together.
Could you imagine being on that car ride with Christopher Cross when he's tripping on acid and writing Ride Like the Wind. Like, that's such a funny thought that guy, when you see that guy, he's so mellow and writing
he said
this
it
song
like it was nothing. He just just put it out there. It wasn't even like he was delivering it like it was like he had been working on it or something. He was like, "Oh yeah, that's sort of the thing that happened."
It was so good,
dude. When you mentioned about the part I wrote is about Kenny coming over in that song or whatever, they definitely were like, "Yeah," and then we put together What a Fool Believes in 10 minutes. Yeah, every super hit is done in 10 minutes. Did you ever notice that? Like, he's like, been around. I started yesterday, and bam, 10 minutes later, there it was.
Don't overthink it, man. It's when you start overthinking it, then you do things that aren't natural, that don't come natural, so they don't sound natural. I really believe that. Like, I mean, half an hour, maybe. People always say 15 minutes, but really, the core idea, the lyric, the melody, the main riff, that can all be like in the time that we took to record this podcast, we could have done that. Yeah. I will say that I walked away from this documentary feeling even better about Yacht Rock, because I will say I do enjoy some of it.
I mean, you love What a Fool Believes. I feel like I've heard you say that's one of the best songs of all time. Like,
it is. It's the quintessential. Also, that is Yacht Rock. Like, if some alien came down here and was like, "What is Yacht Rock? I need to hear one song that's going to define it." That's the definitive Yacht Rock song. I have to think.
I will say though that, Jim, I believe we put on Yacht Rock radio or something at some point in the van, and after a while, I would start to feel like I was going crazy. Like, I can take like 45 minutes of it maybe, but when you start getting into the deep cuts, then I see why. I do think some bad Yacht Rock is some of the worst music ever. Like the real sentimental, sappy, just, like, I don't even know what the word for it is, but it is like nails on a chalkboard. Some of it. The bad stuff.
I agree with you, because I felt like there's this part where they're talking about the recording of Thriller, and they're like, and I just needed one more song. And I'm like, oh man, what song on Thriller did like the Yacht Rock guys have a part in? And then it's Human Nature, which is like one of the more skippable tracks on Thriller to me.
I will disagree with you on that one. I love Human Nature, and I actually didn't know. Wait, who was that? Steve Porcaro who wrote that?
That was it. Yep, that was his demo that he basically did almost note for note.
I didn't know that. That's a piece of knowledge I took away from the documentary, and I was like, nice. I disagree with Matt on this. I think Human Nature is awesome.
It's fine.
I like it. I
don't put on MJ for slow sentimental tracks. I put it on to dance my ass off.
Why don't you do me that way?
No, I think I think it deserves to have its place on there. It wouldn't be Thriller without it.
All right. Well, I mean, I guess we can wrap this up and just say, like, watch it. Watch the Yacht Rock documentary that is on Max.
Nice job to the Garrett something who directed it, and of course The Ringer. Love the stuff The Ringer does. Love your pods and love your docs. Good job, Bill Simmons.
One hit is all you need to make the money guaranteed, and you can live off royalties forever. And it makes me wonder, is it just a wonder, or is it one hit thunder?
This is Krista Makes, guitarist and vocalist for Less Than Jake, and host of Krista Makes a Podcast, a songwriting podcast where every week I'm joined by an amazing guest to break down the writing, recording, and release of one iconic song from their career. In our giant evergreen back catalog of episodes, we've had rock legends such as Dee Snider and Huey Lewis, punk rock favorites like Mark Hoppus, Fat Mike, and Brett Gurewitz, and up-and-coming artists of today such as Liz Stokes of the Beths and Genesis Owusu. We've had guests from all genres and styles of music, and I guarantee that if you peruse our back catalog, you'll see several episodes that'll make you say, man, I gotta hear that. Whether you're a fan of music or a creator of music yourself, you'll take away a whole new appreciation for the songs you know and love. Krista Makes a Podcast is available for free on all the places you could possibly listen to podcasts, and new episodes come out every Monday.
Top reasons your career wants you to move to Ohio. So many amazing growth opportunities, high-paying jobs in technology, advanced manufacturing, engineering, life sciences, and more. You'll soar to new heights, just like the Wright brothers, John Glenn, even Neil Armstrong. Their careers all took off in Ohio, and yours can too. A job that can take you further, and a place you can't wait to come home to. Have it all in the heart of it all. Launch your search at callohiohome.com.